All right, so this is my first podcast. Super excited. I'm excited to have someone that means a lot to me because I think he helped me kind of come up in my industry in real estate. I got Kris Olivo in front of me. Kris, an honor to have you on my first podcast guest. Excuse me. A little background on Kris. He is, I mean, his resume is pretty impressive. But I think that's a true testament to who you are. I think you have the same kind of brain that I do. Like we just don't stop thinking of different things.
Yep.
And I think it's there's a pro and a negative towards that for sure. I feel you.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get into that for sure. But Kris Olivo, his background. I mean, you'll get into more. I mean, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's been in the game for how long now? Jiu-jitsu?
Man, I've been training for 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. So this guy has won a number of competitions in the brown belt sector, and also in black belt as well.
Yep.
And he recently, which I'm super excited for you, and want to celebrate you, he opened his first jiu-jitsu gym.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that too. And on top of that, he has a marketing mind. He's actually one who helped me get my marketing going when I first started real estate. It was cool to be in the beginning stages and where I am at today and where you at today. I mean, this is cool. Yeah. This is super cool. So I'm excited to have you. So we'll get right into it. So he's also obviously a Vegas native. He lives here for, how long have you been here, Kris?
10 years.
Yeah, okay, so it goes by fast, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been training white to black belt here 10 years, and I've been living here, basically.
Yeah. So my goal of this podcast is to interview people who are movers and shakers of Vegas, who are entrepreneurs, doing cool things, because we have a lot of cool people in the Vegas Valley that want to showcase, and because it's really cool that our city derives on that. Entrepreneurship is actually pretty big in Vegas, and I love that. For whether it be businesses, taxes, it benefits. There's a lot of that. But you've been here for a long time, and you could have gone anywhere you want, but you decided to stay here in Vegas. So which is cool. So Kris, tell me a little about your background on who you are, and then we'll get into it.
Man, who am I? That's a question that's always hard to answer because I feel like I'm constantly changing.
Yeah.
Like if you meet me every 5 years, you'll be like, this is not the same guy anymore.
Yeah.
But that's growth, right?
Yep.
I'm constantly trying to seek to improve myself,
right.
And so my family talks about it all the time. Even the way I dress changes.
Yeah.
Like every couple years, I look like a completely different person. When I first met you, I had short hair.
Yeah.
I was in the military.
You're more
still.
clean cut. Yeah, for sure, military guy. Yeah.
That's actually what brought me out here. Was I was in South Georgia. And I was about 3 years into the Air Force, and I got stuck kind of being an airplane mechanic because I had a different job when I first joined, doing like explosive ordnance disposal. So I was like supposed to disarm bombs.
Oh, wow.
But at the time I was married, and everyone kept telling me EOD stood for everyone's divorced. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to get divorced, And so I asked to switch jobs because any special ops job you can transition out of while you're in training still. And then they made me a mechanic. So then I did that for 3 years.
You're in Georgia at this time still?
Yeah, in Georgia.
Yeah.
And eventually I got so depressed I found martial arts, and that's how I started training. Because about 3 years in, I was burnt out.
What style of martial arts in Georgia?
It was MMA. So when I first started, I was going to school. I was doing everything I possibly could to get promoted early, to like kind of stand out amongst like my peers.
Sure.
And the military is one of those systems that it's supposed to be a meritocracy, right? But it's not always.
Yeah.
And so there's politics involved with promotions, and I don't play politics that well.
Sure.
It's kind of like input
you let your work
it's
show
like
yourself. Yeah.
If I put a lot of input into something, then I want output out of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I felt like that wasn't the case with the job I had, and it's very case by case because it's highly dependent on your supervision.
Sure.
But that led me to kind of get burnt out because I was doing everything I could, and it wasn't really helping me any.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started training. I stopped going to school. I started training MMA, and I was training there for a couple months. And I applied to cross train.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because at the time they told me not to even apply because I wasn't going to get it because I was in a critically manned job, which means that they weren't letting people go. So I actually had to go above my supervisor to get that package put in. Because he said no, he wasn't going to sign it. He's like, it's a waste of my time.
He's sign off to get to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, it's just a waste of my time. I'm like, it literally takes you 3 seconds to sign this. And he's like, I'm not signing it. Yeah. And I was like, all right.
I have a reason. Now I know why you left.
Yep. And so I went to someone else. They were like, you're not going to get it, but I'll sign it. Don't get your hopes up. And I was like, I don't care. I just need to feel like I'm doing something,
Yeah.
And then sure enough, I got it.
Yeah.
And they were all, oh man, they were so mad. They were so mad.
So did other people hear about this and like, oh, I want to do the same thing or what?
Yeah. Well, no, I was sitting at like a desk on a computer doing some paperwork for the aircraft that I just worked on.
Yeah.
Because it's not just working on the plane. You have to document everything.
Sure.
And so I was like documenting everything that I did. And I got an email that said like, you've been selected to cross train. And I like fell out of my chair. And people were like, yo, you okay? And I was just like, hold on. And I was like, let me just read it again, make sure I'm not tripping.
Yeah.
And then I read it again, and it said I got selected to cross train. And when you do that, you put in what's called a dream sheet.
Sure.
And they call it a dream sheet because you're supposed to put the top places you want to go. And it's a dream come true if it actually happens.
Like to live, where you want to live to?
Yeah, where you want your next station to be.
Got it.
And so almost no one ever gets what's on their dream sheet.
Okay.
And my number one was Las Vegas. I actually put Las Vegas for like 1 through 5. Yeah.
That's smart.
Because I like really wanted to come here.
You didn't get your first, but you got your third.
No, yeah,
Luckily,
basically,
it's the same one.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to come here honestly because one, I'm from Jersey and I never come out to the west side. Yeah, the west side of the U.S.
Yep.
And I was like, Las Vegas seems cool. I've always wanted to visit, and I grew up like super poor, and so I was like, that's a way for me to get over there.
Yeah.
And I had just started training martial arts, and I was like watching all these YouTube videos of people training,
Sure.
and I knew that there were a lot of fighters out here,
Yeah,
and I wanted to come out here and experience it. And sure enough, I got it. Bro, talk about the saltiest room I had ever been in.
Really?
Yeah, it was like I was in the ocean, bro. Like everybody was so mad. They were like, "Oh, so who do you know?" And I'm like, "I don't know anybody, bro. The only people I know are you guys, and you guys don't even like me." So
yeah, I'm good.
I just got lucky.
Yeah.
And then, that's what kind of set me off here. And then I got out of the military and stayed. And funny thing is, that job change did not save me from getting a divorce. I can tell you that.
Ironic, right?
yeah. So that didn't work out, but other things did.
Good, man. So you were here in Vegas now. You came in here. What was your first thoughts of Vegas? I mean, obviously completely different than the East Coast. Right? We culture shock, everything.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Unlike any other place I've ever been.
Okay.
Now, granted, I hadn't been a lot of places,
Sure.
but it was just completely different.
Okay.
Like the thing that got me at first was that I'm in a grocery store and there's people gambling here.
That's weird.
Like, what is that? Like, why are there slot machines in the grocery store?
And the same person every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you could buy alcohol.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Anytime.
That's right.
Whereas most places they have a cutoff.
Liquor store or a liquor store. Yeah.
Yep. And so I was like, this place is crazy. The fact that I could drive down 10 minutes to go to the strip and see Usher and then come home and then the next day do it again. I'm like, it's insane.
It's
yeah.
nuts.
I would have had to travel hour and a half, 2, 3, 4 hours to go do something fun in Georgia.
Yeah.
I used to always go to Jacksonville. Or
Florida. So how far is that from where you were?
So from South Georgia, it was about 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
All right.
So on the weekends, there was nothing to do where we were.
Got it.
So we would just go to Jacksonville.
Gotcha.
Sometimes Tallahassee.
Got it.
And then if I really wanted to make a trek, I would go to Atlanta, which was over 4 hours away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here it's 10 minutes, bro.
Yeah. Oh, it's everything.
Yeah, it's
I think
crazy.
the culture shock for me is I'm from California, and it's not a gun-friendly state, and so seeing all these guns visible, and it for me, I was like, this is at first it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a wild west. This is nuts.
Yeah.
But then obviously you're actually more comfortable seeing guns, if anything, now these days. But that was my biggest culture shock. Besides everything being open after midnight, that was crazy too.
Yeah, I thought that was the open after midnight thing was crazy to me.
Yeah.
The guns, not so much because I was in South Georgia, bro.
And all military too.
Yeah, and it's you would go to your friend's house and everybody had their guns on the table.
Oh,
while
just
they were
chilling.
eating.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing? What are we preparing for? But everybody would just have their guns out all the time.
Are we gonna wear soon?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
They would just be you would sit down with your friends. You guys are drinking beers, whatever, and then they're just put the gun on the table because it's uncomfortable to hold in your holster.
Jeez,
and so it was just
it's too comfortable for me. You know what I mean? I like a little holster. I like that. But just
I try to adapt. I try to kind of assimilate to that culture.
Sure.
And I got into guns. I like guns. I'm not a gun fanatic, but I own a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And at one point, I looked at myself. I was like, "What am I doing? I just bought a gun with a bayonet on it." And I am a Puerto Rican kid from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Why do I have this? I literally had an old World War II.
Yeah, I was like, you're in the front line of the Civil
with a
War.
bayonet, bro. And I just had it next to my bed. I'm like, in case I have to stab and shoot somebody.
You never know. No. Well, I think during COVID, I think that's when it took off too. People were like, "Oh man, this is nuts. We all need guns."
Yep.
Everyone got ammunition and unnecessary weapons that we don't need.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too. You want to have it before those things happen.
Yeah.
Not one, it's manufacturing and supply chain slows down, so it's harder to get one.
Correct.
But then two, your background check goes
That's what it
to
was.
OPM.
Yes.
And that's the Office of Personnel Management.
Yeah.
And whenever they have those kind of issues, they get backed up.
Yeah.
Because then everybody's applying.
Correct.
So what's a 3-day background check on a normal day turns into weeks.
Yeah. That's what I think is happening to you. I remember that. Like, hey, the gun project, you can buy a gun today, but we can't give it to you until the background thing is done. I'm like, oh, I heard a couple of days. Like, no, because what's going on right now, it's gonna take you. I'm like, oh, interesting. So to your point, yeah.
And then you don't want to be in one of those situations where, like, because think about it, how long did everybody use the pandemic as an excuse for things being slow? You know, they're like, oh, yeah, you know, like COVID, so we're understaffed. I'm like, it's been 2 years. So what are you talking about?
We're in 2025, guys.
Yeah. Like, what are you talking about COVID?
That's funny. Yeah. I wonder if people actually, like, we got to COVID numbers and then they never just kind of fixed it. They're like, it is what it is now. You know what I mean? Or they figure a way to get the business still going without really adding the right people or adding the right staff, you know, doing less for more. I think it's kind of
that's an interesting thing too, because the way that affected the economy was kind of crazy.
It was nuts.
I know so many people that lost their business, and then like a lot of people just didn't want to work.
That's true.
So if we were doing an experiment on like, okay, let's give out stimulus checks to everybody and let's see what happens, you're gonna get a lot of people that are like, I kind of like this.
100%.
I don't think I want to work.
People are milking it for ever. I mean, I knew people were like forever.
Oh, and then
they're making more money in stimulus and working.
Yeah.
So why would you go to work?
And then the PPP loans and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy.
That's still coming out to this day on who received them. People who are kids are like, what?
Bro, like I know people. I'm not gonna say any names.
Good.
But like, I know people that would like in like Puerto Rico that would hand out water bottles in the street for $1.
And they got a PPP loan.
And they got a loan. And they're like, yeah, it's my water bottle business. I'm like, bro, you literally buy those at Walmart and walk around. You don't even have a business entity. Yeah, I'm like, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Some people are really bold. Like, some people are willing to take incredible risks. I feel like I'm one of those people that takes risks, but I'm not like going to risk my freedom.
No, 100%.
You know?
No, I think there's a healthy calculated risk for sure.
Yeah.
Based on like borderline illegal. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. Like if you're caught up to your point, you're doing time. You're not, you know.
Yeah, if you're getting a loan for your water bottles that you're handing out in the street, like you're on some other shit. You know. That's
all right,
crazy.
so you've been in Vegas now. You're in the city. You're on the West Coast kind of thing. You fell in love with martial arts back in Georgia. Now you got really into it here in Vegas. What would that look like? What gym did you join? All that stuff, and what really kind of took you to the next level?
So when I was in Georgia, I started training under a guy named Cameron Neville, and we were doing MMA. So I was training a little bit of everything, but I took particularly to jiu-jitsu really fast.
Okay.
And I think it's because I used to break dance growing up.
Okay.
And so that was like kind of one of my first obsessions.
Okay.
I did that for years, and so I understood how to like grapple really well without like a lot of training. And so compared to like boxing or kickboxing, like you showed me something in grappling and I like kind of immediately got to it.
Yep.
And so I was getting better at that faster. And it's also really easy to compete in jiu-jitsu versus MMA.
Right.
MMA, you have to find an opponent, you have to do a camp for it. It takes a while. Like you might be able to fight if you're super active a couple times a year.
Okay.
Right? And so like if you look at the UFC, some people fight once a year, some people fight less than once a year.
Yeah.
And so I started doing jiu-jitsu competitions in Georgia. And I kind of got the bug then. And I was there for a couple months before I moved here. And I used to constantly watch this guy named Marcelo Garcia, who's considered one of the like goats of jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And there was one video I was watching where he got submitted by somebody. And I was like, I've never seen him get submitted by somebody. Who's this guy? And then I looked the guy up, and his name was Robert Drysdale. And I was like, okay, that guy's pretty cool. I wonder if he has a gym or something like that, because I knew Marcelo had a gym in New York.
Got it.
And I looked that up, and it said Las Vegas. And I was like, that was why I put in orders to Las Vegas, too.
Okay.
So when I got here, I knew where I was going to train already.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to train with Robert.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me be objective and let me try a bunch of other gyms.
Okay, you did.
Right,
okay.
before. And so I went around and I tried a couple gyms. And like I already knew where I was going to train at because I tried Rob's gym first. And then I went to some other ones and I was like, let me see.
Because we have a lot of options out there.
Oh, man, we got a gym everywhere. There's a gym on every corner.
Yeah.
And so, and it's only grown since I've been here.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like the kind of the vibes of the other gyms.
Sure.
Like Rob is super personal. He knows your name really fast,
very cool.
you know, and he's like the most accomplished competitor in Las Vegas. And so I started training with him and I went from white to black belt with him, which is something I'm really proud of because not most people, especially in Las Vegas, don't stay at the same school.
I was gonna ask you, so it's not normal for someone from start to finish, or not finish, but get to their black belt in the same gym? Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty rare.
Okay. Why is that?
You know, Vegas has a culture of kind of entitlement here. And so I think that's part of it.
Okay.
You know, if you're training, like say you're in Valdosta and you're training under Cameron, you're not going to go anywhere else.
Okay.
You know, there's not a lot of choices, and there's not that sense of entitlement there. So like the student to teacher relationship is completely different. Whereas here we have so many choices and so many options, and like there's so much flash and kind of like glamour here that I feel like it, like, not to say that the people here are bad by any means, but it creates like a little sense of entitlement where after a certain point, you know, people start to feel like they're really good, and then they get basically shiny object syndrome.
Okay.
You know, and so they start chasing other things.
Got it.
Even though that the thing that they were doing might have led to them being successful.
Sure.
You know, they don't really double down on it all the time. And so people get a little bored with like, you know, kind of a certain curriculum, or, you know, they're in a room where it's kind of tough. In Rob's case, it's like, a lot of people will want to cross train because it's fun sometimes to train at other gyms.
Sure.
Right. And
to see your skill level, or to see their style, or what?
Mostly so they can go beat up other people.
Okay.
Like realistically, like people that are like, oh, I love to cross train. If you're not like a super competitive athlete and like really high level, like I cross train.
Okay.
Right. But I cross train because I have to go places to like find the professionals, and I have to compete against them because Vegas has so much jiu-jitsu talent, but we're very fragmented. We're, you know, that gym has this really one good guy, and like that gym over there has another really good guy, and this gym, and so it's like we've been in the community so long, we all know each other, you know, and everybody runs.
Does everyone know each other? For the most part?
Everybody knows each other, and we all. If you've been training long enough, you basically know most people in this town.
Okay.
And so it's like, well, that guy's running his program over there. That guy's got his gym over there. I got my gym over here. You know, we're gonna have to meet up because like it takes a long time to build a room.
Sure.
So like right now, I train beginners, right? And there's some color belts that train with me and stuff like that, but. For me to get the same quality training that I would get from cross training with like my friend Renato or with Rob or something like that, I would have to train somebody for 10 years.
Okay.
I don't have that time, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, if I want to take care of myself, I have to cross train.
Got it.
But if you're in a room where you're getting beaten up the majority of the time, then, and you want to cross train, it's mostly so, like, in my opinion, it's mostly so that way you can get some different looks and kind of inflate your ego a little bit more. You know, beat up that guy over there.
Do all the other gym owners know each other too, for the most part?
For the most part, yeah.
Do they ever like I say, you go to Rob Dreiser, right, and I'm a different owner. Do I DM you like, hey Kris, do you want to train over here? Is that a thing, or it comes down to the athlete to shop around, or?
So it really depends. Like with my case, like I'm very upfront about what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
So when I started cross training with my friend Renato, I just told Rob like, hey, I'm gonna cross train at Renato's. You know, like I'm still part of our team, but I'm gonna cross train somewhere else because I need the rounds I'm not going to be able to get, you know, here because there's not a lot of competitive black belts my weight.
Got it.
Right? We might have some black belts.
So the higher you get, the less people you can train with.
The pool gets smaller.
Makes
so
sense,
it's like I can either experiment on these like blue belts and purple belts and be like, how many times can I submit this guy during this round? You know, or I can go get get around where I would get in competition somewhere else. Right.
Got it.
And so whenever I'm visiting a gym, I always message and like make sure it's cool, you know. And then I'm always super respectful when I roll with other instructors and stuff like that.
Okay.
If they're at like my gym or on my territory, I'm obviously super respectful, but I'll for sure submit them.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to pull back a little bit when you're the guest?
If I'm the guest, I will out of respect.
Okay.
You know.
When do you retaliate if they go hard at you? Then then I'll go hard. Or
I'll meet them.
Okay.
I'll just meet whatever level they are.
I got it.
You can normally feel pretty quickly, like whether somebody's better than you or not, right? And so, you know, I travel train a lot, and so when I'm like traveling, like outside of Las Vegas, and I stop in a gym, Vegas has such a high concentration of good jiu-jitsu that most places aren't really like they're not comparative. There's places that are that there's really good people and really good instruction, but if you were to average all the gyms, like a lot of them aren't kind of on the level that Las Vegas has. And so it's very common where I'll go somewhere and there's not a single person in the room that can submit me. And so out of respect, I'm not just trashing the instructor in front of all his students.
Of course. Good call.
It's kind of mean.
Be your last invite, period.
Yeah, exactly. So like we roll around, like I'm super respectful. We'll flow through positions.
Sure.
But they can feel it.
Yeah, I understand.
We like look at each other like, okay,
respect.
Yeah.
And I think if they hear you you're from Vegas, like, oh shit, you're a black belt from Vegas, like, oh shit, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
Especially when they know, like, because they know my coach. And so a lot of them are really excited to have me. Yeah. Some of them will ask me.
So
to,
he's
like,
a name you can just drop down and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, most people, if you're like serious about jiu-jitsu, you know who he is.
That's super cool. So. And so he's earned that for obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a black belt since I was like a child.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, he got his black belt in like 98.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you've learned from him, and then you got black belt through him, and then when did you click in your mind like, hey, because I know we've been talking for years, and I know that was always on your mind to like, I want to start my own gym. That's what I want to do. So what made you go to that route?
It was kind of the timing, right? Like, I mean, we've known each other for basically almost a decade now, right?
That's true.
And so I met you very early on when I moved here.
Yep.
And I've always known that like I wanted to open a gym just because I enjoyed being in one so much.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that it's like, if you can get paid to do what you love, obviously, like if that's a viable option, then you should pursue that. But for me, it was a matter of timing. I always thought I would do it a little later in life when I was done competing. But it just kind of made sense where I am right now with training. Rooms build up, and then they kind of like, they don't die, but then they just go through cycles, right? Like seasons.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And so it's like a room will get really, really good, and then people move or people leave, whatever it is, and then the room resets, and then it builds up, and another 3 years later, it's really good. So I've seen those cycles of change.
Sure. Well, and a healthy gym, what percentage stays there for a long period of time?
Man, I don't know. It depends on where you are.
Okay.
I would say, like, say you start off with 100 people, right? You might have like 20 of them, maybe less, 15 of them, like 6-7 years later.
Okay.
I think like a lot of gyms will have like a 2 to 5 year lifestyle, like 2 to 5 year kind of lifetime for a student.
Got it.
Before they either move or go somewhere else. Sometimes people just literally move, and this is what I mean by like Vegas is a little entitled.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will move from like, Summerlin to Henderson, and then they switch gyms.
Okay.
Right? Because of the drive.
Sure.
Whereas like I went to Mexico City and they brought me out there to teach, and I had people that were taking a 2-hour bus ride one way to come train with me.
Wow.
One way.
Wow.
Bro, I'm like, yo, that's
dedication.
I am not.
Or they
worth
love that gym, or they love who they're learning from, right? I mean, I think it makes sense to travel the distance if you feel like, hey, I know I'm going to grow exponentially because I'm with this person, so it's worth the travel and dedication.
Yeah, it definitely comes into play where you are. Because like when I was in South Georgia to do a seminar, like from somebody like relatively famous, I would have driven like 5, 6, 7 hours to go. Whereas in Vegas, if you ask somebody to drive like more than 20 minutes, you're like, it's like, bro, what are we talking about? Can we just
won't give me halfway?
Yeah, exactly. Like
that's funny. And then it goes to the point. What I love about you, Kris, is you're super. Once you find something, like you're all in.
Yeah.
Right. You are. I mean, almost to you would call it a sickness, right? 100%. I'm purposely be like, dude, you're obsessive. But that's what I think 100%. People do well when you become obsessed with something, and you found it, and you're obsessed with it. You learned it, and now you have that business mindset. You're like, all right, I want to do this too, right? Because you said like, hey, I love being here so much. I want this to make this my life.
Yep.
And then you open the gym. And
then you naturally like, kind of, jiu-jitsu is interesting because like most things that you work in, like take another industry, right? Like say you're you own a grocery store and you employ employees there, right? It's not a natural progression for somebody working at a grocery store to be like, I want to own a grocery store. Yeah. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it's very different. Like people get a black belt and then they want to teach.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
And so,
but not at that own gym, but they want to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Eventually they want to own their own place or run their own program because they have opinions on things. And it really comes down to just wanting to share what you know. Okay. We're very communal creatures, and jiu-jitsu is like a really tight community, and it's very rewarding to teach somebody how to do something like that.
Sure.
And so, kind of that natural progression is not found in like every other industry. And so that's another thing that kind of made me take the leap is like, I already knew I wanted to do it, but I'm at a point now where I really enjoy sharing what I know.
That's cool. Because I think you are a different breed in itself, and I think in an awesome way. Did you feel it was hard for you growing up to vibe with people? Like, did you feel you found your tribe when joining jiu-jitsu, or more people like you doing jiu-jitsu?
I think like growing up, I was like a really conscious kid, and I was like, I had a lot of issues around me,
Okay.
and I was always like observing everything.
Okay.
You know, I was a little bit more conscious and responsible than I feel like I should have been for a child. And so that's what ultimately led me to entrepreneurship to begin with, was the fact that like I felt like I had to save everybody around me, you know, and I had to be responsible for everybody. But then that, like, I do have an obsessive personality when I like something, you know, and that's like, it's been like that since an early age. And as a kid, I always wanted to kind of be a martial artist. It was just never really an opportunity that I had. And so I feel like that combination of things is kind of what built me into the person I am. But I get really weird about things when I like it.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think that's great. But I'm glad you're obsessive about something that's healthy and good for you.
Yeah.
Versus
good thing
vices.
I should never try cocaine.
Well, you're also in Vegas, right? I mean, we have so many vices in the city, right? So the temptations are constantly, but the fact that you're obsessed with something that's good for you, which is great. And I think one of the meccas of the world for jiu-jitsu, right? So you at an early age, like, oh, I want to be the best. Where I got to go? It's Vegas. It worked out. So it's funny when you look at your life chapter, use all these different things as movements. You're like, man, you're writing a story and stuff, right? Your story's not over, but big leaps had to happen to where you're at to this moment, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from trauma responses. You know, a lot of the times what we become is, you know, when it's good, it's what we needed as a child. You know, so it's like a lot of people that are really hungry for success, there's inherently some sort of chip on their shoulder. From, you know, their youth or whatever, the need and feeling to be like validated and to be able to provide for not only yourself, because like, you know, I could just drive for Uber Eats, lower my expenses, and like not really,
and just train,
like and just be fine. But like there's like that kind of like a fire in me that like I can't settle. I just move the goalposts.
Do you think you ever feel like I made it?
No. No, I don't.
Same.
Yeah, anytime I do anything, I'm like, all right, what's next? And then I just move the goalpost.
Yeah, and the fact you said that, I'm that way too with you. I definitely have a chip on my shoulder from my younger years, so that's who I am. And something I don't feel it's ever enough. I feel like I've always got to prove myself in some fashion. So I'm definitely aligned with you in that.
Yeah, I feel like I was always like kind of searching for where to put my energy, you know, and I tried a bunch of different stuff, and then like even to the point where I literally became like a professional magician. I don't even know if I ever like talked to you about that too much, but yeah, I got like obsessed with magic at one point
you're in Vegas, man.
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu magic show?
Yeah.
That's the first of its kind.
When I moved out here, I was gigging.
Oh, really?
I was doing magic shows, bro. Pay wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I was getting paid like, you know, like $100, $150 an hour at the time. And I just hated it. I felt like a little monkey. You know, just like kind of
display.
Like, because I was doing like parties and corporate events and stuff, and I would do like strolling magic, which is like walking around and showing people stuff. And so I have like drunk people touching me and stuff, and they're like, I know that's not real. I'm like, obviously I'm not a warlock, bro. Like, what do you? I'm just here to entertain you.
Yeah.
Of course it's not
That's
real.
Hilarious.
So it's just a little weird, you know.
I could see
and
that.
So then breakdancing was performance based too.
Yeah.
And so it's like I needed something to put my energy into that I wouldn't get burnt out, and jiu-jitsu happened to be that vehicle. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And then the people you met through jiu-jitsu, like just close. I know I've always heard that when you're part of a gym, like it's like a brotherhood at that point. It really is, right? You're kind of like in the military, you're kind of fighting with each other, you're fighting for each other, you represent your gym, all that stuff, and you do comps as well, where you represent your gym as well. I know, and then you went through recently. You went through a lot of competitions from all that stuff. And how do you feel competing? Is that something you're comfortable with? Did you get nervous in front of a bunch of people? I don't know. It's like boxing. I always think about that too. And I have another question in front of me after that. But like just knowing that everyone's focused on you, and you can't slip up. You have everything in your mind. I mean, it's just. Do you black out? I heard a lot of people just black out. Yeah. So it's one of those things. One, like to address one of the first things you said about the brotherhood. I think when you're doing, like, guys tend to bond when they're shoulder to shoulder, right? Instead of like in front of each other. I feel like women tend to bond more by like sharing and communicating and being right face to face. Whereas with men, you bond more when you're shoulder to shoulder doing something.
That's like a military thing.
Exactly. And so it's like if you're in the trenches with somebody, if you're fighting with somebody and you're beating them up and they're beating you up, you tend to just get closer.
So true.
And so I think the community and the friends you make in jiu-jitsu, a lot of them last a lifetime. You know, I've got friends that I train with that I'm just like friends with forever. You know,
that's
and
cool.
it's one of those things that you find people like the nature of the sport. It's just constantly pushing you to be better, right? So you're around people that are pushing you to be better. It's very humbling. And if you're not one of those humble people, then you typically don't last unless you learn how to be humble. Because it's one of those things that you can't pay your way to like get better at.
Got it.
Right. And so it's like you could be the richest person in the world, and then you go into a gym and get submitted by like a 15-year-old. Right. And so I think that just builds your character and builds your community. And it's interesting with that brotherhood, you have all sorts of different types of people. You have that guy who's an entrepreneur, that guy who's an astronaut, this guy's an engineer, that guy's a doctor, this guy's a pothead, and they're all hanging out. Right.
It's a mixture of people.
So it's a huge mixture of people. Right.
I do like you have family men, you have individual men. I mean, you have all over the.
You have like an iron worker and a doctor. You know, two people that have like completely opposing politics or viewpoints that like come together and break bread over this activity.
Off the mat, on the mat, nothing matters.
Not really, and it transcends all borders. Like I tell people all the time that like I could go to Ukraine right now. I could go to Russia right now. I could go to China right now. And if I walk into a jiu-jitsu gym, people are nice to me. They don't care where I'm from.
That's super cool.
They only care about
fraternity.
Basically what I'm doing with them and whether I'm good or not.
You don't have to know the language, but you guys know the language of jiu-jitsu, right? That's cool.
I train with people from all over the world all the time, and I compete against them too.
That's cool.
And so to talk about competition, right? I think competition is something that everyone should do because it shows you a lot about yourself.
Sure.
And it's not like when you're training in the gym, it's very different than competing. Right? You have the adrenaline, you have the nerves. It's something you constantly have to battle.
Right.
And I'm a big believer that our brains are not always our friends. You know, there's some people who have like a lot more natural dopamine. But like my brain has never really been my best friend. Right? So it's like I get weird thoughts all the time where it's like I'll get anxiety over something. Like I remember coming up in the space and like I would see like a 15-year-old kid. I'm like, oh man, I bet that guy could beat me. And I'm like, why am I thinking a 15-year-old child can beat me? Right. And so it's one of those things that like when you put yourself in that environment, it forces you to kind of have to learn how to tame yourself and control yourself. And so when I go to compete, I tend to do the same things all the time.
And what do you mean same? Like your routine?
Like I have a routine.
Oh, okay, cool.
You know, I
like
tend
to hype yourself up and get ready to go, or what?
You know, kind of. Okay. I try not to hype myself up too much because I don't want to like spike my adrenaline even more. And so I tend to be best when I'm like calm but having fun. You know, versus like angry.
So makes you loose.
Yeah, and I've tried a bunch of different approaches to this, and I'm still honestly figuring it out. What I know is that the more I compete, like frequency wise, not over a period of time, like the faster I get to my next competition, the more I relax I am.
Interesting.
But I've competed so many times, if I take a break, it's kind of like almost starting all over again. It feels, you know, that ring rust thing that they talk about.
Yep.
I feel like that's kind of a thing. For some people, it's not. For me, it's definitely is. Like, I got to be actively competing for me to feel really comfortable, especially at my level, because I'm competing against some of the best people in the world. And so I always do the same things, and it is nerve-wracking for people to be watching you, especially if the people that are watching you are people that care about you or that you care about. Like, I was never a fan of like bringing like significant others to my competition and stuff like that.
Because they're afraid of them seeing you get hurt or seeing you lose?
No, because I know I'm not going to get hurt. It's just embarrassment.
Okay.
You know,
for you.
It's the embarrassment of losing in front of somebody that you care about, right? And then it's also the awkwardness of that person watching you lose, because it's like, I came here to watch you win and you lost, and I don't know what to say to you now.
Do you want to get dinner?
You know, like, I'm sorry. Like, you know, and then like, I'm very like straight when it comes to like how I feel about things, you know? So it's like, if I don't lie to myself at all. So it's like, if you're like, oh, you're still a champion, I'm like, no, I'm not. Don't say that to me. I literally got choked in front of everyone.
Not winning.
I did not win, you know?
So does that like the fire for you, or does that put you in a different spot where you're not really happy with yourself?
I always give myself one day to have a pity party after a loss.
Good.
So I have like,
you cut that off.
Yeah, I have one day where I can be like mopey and whatever, you know, but then after that it's over. We got stuff to do.
Got it.
Right.
Can you normally identify what you did wrong, or is
always.
it always okay?
Always. It's always blatantly obvious what I did wrong. I've never lost and been confused as to how I lost.
Okay, cool.
Like, it's always, and that's the thing, jiu-jitsu shows you a lot of stuff about you when you compete. You'll do stuff in a competition that you would never do in the training room. You're like, why would I do that? That makes zero sense.
Why did I tickle him?
It's like, why did I just turn around, look up, and give him my back and let him choke me? Like, you're like, who is this person?
And I think comes back to the frequency, right? So yeah, so
the more you do it, the more you mitigate those mistakes,
right.
And then the more you're like calm. Adrenaline is a huge thing. I'll go into the gym and I'll be able to train for over an hour straight, nonstop. I can roll for an hour straight. You do one competition where you have a 5-minute round and you leave so gassed because of the adrenaline dump. You're like, oh my God, that guy's the strongest guy in the world. I'm so tired. So it's one of those things that like I'm still trying to like get better at constantly, which is why I do it. And then it also makes you better at jiu-jitsu. So I always tell people the only hack in jiu-jitsu is to compete. That's the only way to shortcut your progress.
Got it.
Privates isn't necessarily going to do it. The training room doesn't do it.
It helps, but
it depends on who you are and where you are.
Got it,
right? Because some people do privates way too early.
Oh, okay.
Like I'll have like white belts who ask me for privates, and I normally try to talk them out of it. Now, if you're gonna throw your money away, that's on you. But I'll tell you, like, hey, like it doesn't really make sense for you yet because I'm gonna be teaching you stuff that you're gonna learn for free and like the regular classes that you're already paying for. So it's like,
and also apply it.
So it's like, imagine if I like wanted to pay you a ton of money to learn real estate without having gone through like even getting my license. Like, you'd be like, why am I doing this? I have more value to add to somebody who has experience versus somebody who doesn't. And so when you compete, the lessons that you learn there, they stick with you for a lot longer.
Gotcha.
And so it's like, if you get choked in the gym or you make a mistake, you don't even think about it. But you get choked and you make a mistake in front of your wife, in front of your kids, like, then you're like, damn. It hurts more. It hurts your ego more, so it sticks with you more. I've seen kids, like, I was talking to my friend the other day, and we were talking about this one kid who my friend had submitted, and he had submitted him in 3 different matches, and this was like their 4th match again, and then like my friend submitted the guy again in front of his child, and the kid was like, oh no, Dad, you lost to this guy again. Hey, yo, that's like
calling you out.
Yeah, that's hard, bro.
That's rough.
That's hard.
Damn, that Steve is really mean to you, Dad.
Yeah like that's a hard thing to swallow. So it's one of those things that like, since it hurts more, it makes you grow faster. So that's the only shortcut.
I gotcha. I think it's just being out there, it exposes you, right? That's a complete exposure too. Obviously, it puts you in check and like, all right, do I know my stuff? Do I not? But I think to your point, you have that pity part, which is important. You cut that off, but you can go, I know exactly what I did wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I know way better than that. I'm way better than that as it is. And I wonder how many times in competitions do you feel it's a coin flip on who wins because they're both so talented and skilled? It's just one of those one little tiny mistakes you lose it.
At the high level, it's like a game of inches.
Okay.
Like one little thing can definitely lose you the whole match. The difference between your hand being here versus there, like that can throw off the entire match, because that can be whether like the difference between whether you get arm drag and get your back taken. And then once the guy takes your back, like, you might not be able to get out of it. You might not get submitted, but you might get down on points, and now this guy's not going to let you get back up on points because like everybody's really good at kind of like playing the rule set. And so it's one of those things that like normally the person who gets scored on first tends to lose. Unless it's like a really loose match. But the margins for error, are really, really thin.
I can see that at that level. It can be that.
With the like white belts and blue belts, like you'll see them change positions all the time and score, but like, and it goes back and forth. But at the black belt level, it's really thin.
Very cool. So now you have your gym. So let's plug your gym. What's going on there, and what does it look like? Let's go.
So it's called Potential Jiu-Jitsu.
How'd you get the name?
I was on my way to a competition, and my friend Armin, I was talking to him about opening a gym, and this was like, honestly, not even 2 months ago. I was talking to him about it. And I was like, I kind of feel like I'm at the point now where I think I want to open a gym. I'm not sure about it. I'm training with a lot of beginners. I have to cross train to get my tough rounds. And so, I don't know, the timing might be good, right? I was like, I've been thinking about going to look at some spaces. And he's like, well, what would you call the gym? And I was like, I have no idea. And that's the hard part, is like, I don't get excited about something till I have a brand name in mind. When I have a brand, then it's like, I can get behind this. I have a child now. I named it, right? And so I was really struggling, and I won't like make a move on something until I have a name. It's like a little thing that I have.
That's cool.
And so he was like, well, what do you like about jiu-jitsu? And I was like, I think like at my core, the thing that I enjoy most about it is that it helps you to see what a human is capable of. And there's different things in life that do this. Like chess does it cognitively. You learn how powerful someone's mind is, right? Like breakdancing does it physically. Gymnastics, you see them do stuff that you're like, yo, they're basically defying gravity, right? Like, and that kind of like seeing that natural potential that humans have, I feel like it's something that's rare. And so vehicles that unlock it, I typically value a lot, whether I've participated in them or not. And so I feel like jiu-jitsu is one of those things. You'll see people doing the weirdest stuff and submitting people with all sorts of stuff. And you basically turn your entire body into like a rolling weapon. And so I was like, I feel like that's what it is. It like really shows you what humans are capable of potential wise. And he's like, why don't you name it that? And I was like, what? He's like, potential. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. And then I started kind of chewing on it, mulling it over. And then I started looking up. I was like, okay, well, let me like try to think of a different name. And I probably alone exhausted like all of ChatGPT's processing power. That's awesome. Like I made it give me over like 1,500 different possible names. I was like, all these are cringy, and then all the good ones are taken. I was like, forget it. I was talking to Heather, my business partner, and I was like, all the good jiu-jitsu names are already taken. I can't think of anything. This sucks. I don't know what to do. There's no way I can ever open a gym unless I have a good name. And I don't want to name it after myself. You know, I'm not like, that's just not my thing. And so, I think brands should stand on their own, you know, and not really like if I ever want to sell it, nobody's going to want to buy Olivo Jiu-Jitsu, right? And so, the more I chewed on it, the more I started to like it, the more I started to kind of see it. And then like, eventually I was like, okay. And then I went and bought the domains, and then that was like 2 months ago. And I was like, all right, you know, I got a name. I can go look at some spaces. Let's see what happens. And then one weekend I went out. It was like the very next weekend. So that weekend I was competing. The next weekend I went to look at some spaces. And then I found a space I really liked. And I was like, huh. And I was hoping I wasn't going to. You know when you go to do something, you're like hoping it doesn't work out?
Because it got real.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I was like kind of like hoping it wasn't going to work out. I was like, hopefully I don't see anything. And hopefully it's like way too expensive and I don't want to do it. And so, because like I didn't feel like I was necessarily ready to pull the trigger. But then I found the perfect space. And I was like, oh, man, here we go.
I have a name. I found a space.
Here we go again. And I already knew where I was going. I was like, I'm going to fucking end up getting this place. And so I was like, let me find out. Let me look up how much this place will cost me, right, to run. And so I looked up like the rent and the cam fees and all that stuff. And I started educating myself on commercial real estate because I didn't really know too much about that. And I was like, damn it. And Heather was like, what? I was like, we can literally pay for this place for like well over a year without having a single student. I was like, it won't literally, we can build it not out of scarcity at all. We can build it exactly how we want to build it. I was like, it's in a great location. It's like right off of Fort Apache and Tropicana. It's like where Juan's Flaming Fajitas is and like In-N-Out.
Exactly.
I'm like, I got an In-N-Out in the parking lot.
Sold.
I'm like, I got Juan's. I got a massage place. I got this great bakery that's next to me. And I was like, damn. All right. Let's talk to an agent, you know, and let's see about getting some help. So we talked to an agent, and I was like, talking to her, and I was like, I want some concessions on our end. We're not going to ask for like tenant improvements or anything like that, but I want some things on our end. So we're going to ask for these points. And I shot high. Right. You know, I was expecting to negotiate, and she was like, yeah, okay, well, I'll see what I can do. You know, we'll go high, and then we'll see what he comes back with. You know what he came back with? Yes.
Approval. Done.
And I was like, all right.
Got more real and get more real.
Hand, you know? And then I got the keys about a month and a half ago. And because like we already own another business, I already had everything ready to deploy, and I've already been through this with like all the licensing and all that stuff. So like I just started speed running it, dude. I probably opened a jiu-jitsu gym faster than anybody.
That's crazy.
Because like within like a month, I was done with the full build out and like transformed the space completely.
That's nuts, dude.
So we did it quick. People were like, didn't you just get the keys a couple weeks ago? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, there's a sauna in here. And I'm like, yeah, there is. Speed ran that shit. I got time to waste.
So did you always have a vision what you wanted to look like?
Yeah. and it came out basically exactly how I was thinking.
That's so cool. Did you like kind of as your experience grew of visiting other gyms, did you like take a little peek? Oh, I love that. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
One of the things that I feel like basically every gym for the most part lacks is like focus on recovery.
Okay.
And so there's no jiu-jitsu gyms in the Valley that I'm aware of that have a sauna in them, nor do they have a cold plunge.
Okay.
And so I was like, I want both. I've only seen a couple gyms like nationally that do it, and they're like massive facilities. Like one of my friends, Dan, he owns a beautiful gym. It's like over 5,000 square feet in there, and he has like red light therapy, like 15-person sauna. You know, he has multiple cold plunges. He's got like a freaking track in there. Like he's got an entire weightlifting room. And I was like, that's a nice city. Nice setup, really, really nice setup.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to model something like that where like I had a good bit of both. Yeah. And so I was like, I want to have a sauna. I want to have a cold plunge. Yeah. One, because I use those things for myself already. And so if I need them, anybody else that trains here is going to want to use them. So I was like, I could buy a sauna for my house, but I'm going to buy one for the gym. Yeah. And then two, the other thing that I kind of did differently was our gym has a lot of like warmer tones to it. Okay. And so most gyms feel very industrial. And I feel like for the amount of time you spend in a jiu-jitsu gym, it shouldn't feel as industrial as it does. Like a lot of them are gray and black, you know, on concrete floors. And to me, I'm like, and they're really bright, all white lighting and stuff, and I didn't really like that. I'm like, it's like a second home. It should feel like one. Yeah. And so I did beige walls. I did like brown wood floors. I put up a grass wall on like a really big grass wall. We're gonna fill the place with plants. I even have like LEDs in the ceiling that change colors. So like in night classes for the adults, I'll like do low lighting, and it'll be like purple in the ceiling. I
think what's one thing you have something you have no one else has. You actually have like a marketing aesthetics background almost in that sense, right? Yeah. And I don't think jiu-jitsu, I'm not saying nothing against them, right? But they're focused so much on jiu-jitsu, right? So you have that other component. Yeah. So you're bringing a whole different spin to this. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. Most jiu-jitsu gym owners are just jiu-jitsu guys who end up owning a gym. Yes. I happen to be a jiu-jitsu guy who already owned another business. Yeah. And our other business is advertising and marketing. And so we just leveraged what we knew how to do. And then, you know, because of that, we didn't need designers for anything. We handled all that in-house. Advertising, we handled that in-house, like designing our signage, all that stuff, like we were able to do. So we could kind of just build it exactly how we saw the aesthetic. And I know that since I'm training a lot of new people, right, and I'm not just going off of my name, and a lot of people don't go off of their name in jiu-jitsu, surprisingly, because the majority of the market is just problem aware. They're not solution aware. And so when someone's looking up a gym near them, they're looking up like best jiu-jitsu gym near me or a jiu-jitsu gym near me. It's based off of proximity. And so problem aware, meaning that they're looking for jiu-jitsu. Solution aware with me was like me coming from Georgia looking up Robert Drysdale. Correct. Like I knew where I wanted to train. Gotcha. And so because of that, you're really marketing to people who don't know anything about the sport or the people in it. And so, like, even at Rob's gym, the majority of people that walk through don't know who he is. Yeah. You know, they're just there because it was close to their gym. They're close to where they work out, close to their house. They were driving by. And so the aesthetic is important to me because I want it to be comfortable. Yeah. We have couches instead of just chairs, you know. I've got benches in there. I've got a TV. I've got a free coffee machine. And so,
dude, it's completely different than a jiu-jitsu gym. I know.
Dude, it's more like it feels more like a yoga studio.
Yoga. That's a cool vibe. So what's going to happen, I think, over time is people are going to. I'm sure people shop different gyms before they decide, 100%. Right? So obviously yours is going to be a shopped one, and I'm not saying the majority of people are going to like what you did, but I think it's going to be so different. It's going to create people intriguing or create curiosity about this, right?
Yes, and I think the benefit is that we've got both sides of the coin. Yeah. You know, so it's like the killers, like a lot of them already know me. Yep. And
you got that.
I already have that me as a person.
Correct.
But my gym doesn't necessarily need to reflect everything. Like it can be calming and like friendly. Yeah. But at the same time, if you want to go to war, like, okay, well, we're war ready here. You know, like I'll compete with you. And then we have the recovery room, so that separates us.
Do you think you're going to get more women because of what you did? Or
I think so, because my business partner, Heather, she's a blue belt. Yeah. She also owns the gym with me. Yeah. And so we partner on every business we do together. We own the agency 50-50. Yeah. We partnered on the gym the same way. And so because there's another woman that's a leader at the gym, I think we'll naturally attract more women. Yeah. And I also have like a 0 tolerance policy for people that are weird when it comes to like how they train with women or how they treat them. Yeah. And so because of that, I think I'll be able to cultivate a really good culture. Oh, cool. A lot of gym owners can be like non-confrontational when it comes to scenarios like that. And a lot of people are trying to date at the gym and stuff like that. And so it's one of those things that like, if I feel like a guy's making a woman uncomfortable at my gym, like you're just not going to train there. Got it. You know, I don't need your $150 a month. Yeah. Like, so
well, I think we create that standard. I think people are going to see that and go, oh, I feel comfortable. Or if I'm a father, like, I want my daughter to do this too. Like, I know you created that situation, or my wife, knowing that, hey, if I can come with you, I know if you go solo, this gym is going to be a good situation, right?
Yeah, nice. It's funny because our first student that signed up is a woman. Yeah. And she said that she's Brazilian. And so she's been around jiu-jitsu basically her whole life, but she's never done it. And she said she never wanted to do it because of the stigma with gyms. Yes. But our gym was the first gym that she walked into and talked to somebody and it felt comfortable. Yeah. She didn't feel like she was going to get hurt or like the guys were going to be weird with her there, you know, and she asked me all these questions and I told her, I'm like, listen, I grew up with only sisters basically. Like I have 9 siblings and 7 of them are sisters. Yeah. And so I'm not going to say that like I'm the champion woman, you know, but like
weird title.
You know, it's weird. Like I respect women though.
Of course.
And so I want to create an environment that like feels very welcoming to them because the industry itself is already really intimidating for them. They're already doing something that's uncomfortable. Right. So I want to create a space where they're comfortable to train. And at the same time, like, you know, just create a good culture in general. I've seen it happen. I've seen gyms that do it well. I've seen gyms that don't do it well. And I've been around long enough to kind of know what I need to do to create what I'm looking to do.
That's cool, man. I think I applaud you. I think you're doing something completely different. I think because you have experience, you've seen it, and you're doing it. And I think it's great because you could easily just do another gym. Yeah. Olivio's Jiu-Jitsu gym. Yep. I mean, 100%, right? But you didn't. You're like, no, I want something different. I think this is going to work in a city that is also thriving on this. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, what's the goal?
Man, the goal is honestly just to, like, it's our ethos, our slogan. Mm-hmm. So on the wall, we have in huge, like, vinyl lettering, we put, come as you are, leave as more. And that is literally my goal. Yeah. So I will help to turn you into whatever it is you're seeking to become. Mm-hmm. And that's my goal entirety. If you just want to train, have a good time, as long as you're growing, that's all I care about. Yeah. So come as you are, leave as more. That's the goal. However big it gets, I don't care. It's really a passion project for me. It's a place for me to share what I know. Yeah. It's a place for other people to come, break bread, and be able to do something that empowers them, makes them feel good. And at the end of the day, whether that's 5 students or 1,000, I'm good with either way. Cool. You know.
Well, I think it's gonna grow. I think I'm praying it grows. I want it to grow where it's manageable for you, right? Yeah. And still fun, right? That's important too. And then obviously, big growth is great. Don't get me wrong, but obviously at that point you have to decide where am I going at this point, right?
Yeah, it's hard too because with jiu-jitsu gyms, they're different than like a lot of other businesses. They're hard to scale. Yeah. So there's particular challenges that you have with them that you don't have with another business, right? Sure. So the problem that you have is that say you want to open up a second gym. Yeah. Well, it's not like opening like a salon where you just hire a manager and then find some stylists, right? You have to have a black belt, right? So you either hire a black belt that you didn't grow or you use one of the homegrown ones, right? Now, the problem that most people run into on when they have somebody else teaching their classes is say JD, you're a black belt, right? And I'm like, hey, JD, do you want to run my other gym? I'll pay you a salary, whatever. And you're like, okay, cool, I'll run the other gym. And then you're doing basically everything that an owner-operator would be doing. Got it. And then about 2-3 years in, you know, all the kids, all the students, they know you. They don't know me very well because I'm not in the gym. You're running it. Yeah, it's my gym, but you're running it, right? And so what happens when you start to feel a little entrepreneurial and feel like you built the entire program? Eventually, you're like, well, I'm the one that's been doing the work. I built this entire school. Yeah. I should own it. And so then you want to separate and do your own thing. And then what happens when you do that? Are people going to be loyal to the space or are they going to be loyal to the person? Right. They're going to follow you. Yeah. And so you're going to split off and then I'm going to lose all the students, and then I'm basically going to have to start all over again.
Interesting.
And so it's a really hard problem to solve, and most people don't do it well, which is why you don't see.
There's no like franchise or corporate jiu-jitsu gyms. Is that
not really. There's affiliations. Why you see like Gracie Gym this, Gracie Gym that. Yeah. But like that's just paying an affiliation fee to use their logos and their curriculum. Correct. But you don't typically see like where one guy owns like more than like a couple gyms because of that problem. It's just hard to keep them going with qualified instructors who don't over time want to run their own show. And so I think the solution, I have a friend named Casey who does it well. He's got like 4 or 5, you know, and I don't know the ins and outs of like how he did it. If I were to take a guess, I think his deal with his instructors has got to be so good that they're just like, they want to stay there. Yeah. Right. And
I think you're not worrying about overhead or any of that. You know what I mean? You just kind of show up, do your job in a good salary, and you love what you're doing. It's a passion, right? So I think the money does speak. I really do. You know, if the split or whatever is good, they're like, cool, I'm taken care of. I don't have to worry about rent or utility. And so that's a lot, and a lot of people are not that they don't have that mindset. Like, I don't want to take that on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are kind of scarce-minded when it comes to like giving points or percentages to people. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that if I was going to open a second gym, it would have to be with somebody that I really like, and then I would have to make the deal so good that they wouldn't even want to do it on their own. You know, like whether it's 50-50 partners or I give you like 30% or 40%, you know, and then I retain some equity for me to make decisions.
And sometimes making that good split is beneficial for you too.
Yeah. And so. But yeah, that's the problem I see most people having. So it's a little different. I can't just keep propping them up with money. So it's like, even if I have all the money in the world to just like build 100 gyms, like how do I run them? Who's going to run them? You know, that's really difficult.
That's a different kind of model set. Well, I think like I said, I'm proud of you, man. I'm so excited for what you got going on. And on his shirt, he's got his logo on his shirt. Was cool. Potential, which is awesome. I definitely got to cop me one of those. But last couple questions before I let you go is, fighting. I always ask if you're going to do UFC fighting.
Yeah, MMA. Yes. Yeah, so last year I was trying to, right? And so it's one of those things that I've had such a battle with since I've been training, because I'm pretty good at MMA because I spar a lot of high-level MMA guys, even guys in the UFC. And I've trained a good amount of guys in the UFC. I've also trained with a lot of guys in the UFC. And so I know kind of where my level is relative to theirs. And jiu-jitsu wise, like I'm like, my jiu-jitsu is better than majority of people in the UFC at this point. And so like, it's kind of one of those things in the back of my mind all the time. Now I'm getting older. It's a little bit more difficult. I'm 33. And so if I wanted to make a serious MMA run, I should have started 10 years ago. Right. But once I got good at jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like, well, do I want to keep winning jiu-jitsu or do I want to take away my focus and spread it thin with MMA? And so I never did it because I was like winning a lot of competitions and I was like, I want to see how good I can get at this, right? And I kind of had the linear focus. So last year I was like, you know what? I feel a little like I kind of want to do something new and get something like kind of embark on a new adventure. And so I was like talking to my coach and we were trying to find me a fight. And honestly, I wasn't even gonna like, you know, like training, like striking wise, I'm very okay. Jiu-jitsu wise, I'm really good. And then wrestling, I'm really good at. And so it's not, I wasn't gonna like do like, oh, I'm gonna train striking for 3 years minimum before I do it. I was just like, I have good enough hands and legs to like kind of bridge the gap. Because I do it in sparring. And so I wasn't even gonna train for it, to be honest. I was just gonna like find me a fight, give me a date, and then we'll figure it out from there, right? And so we started looking, but we weren't really able to find anything because the problem is that I'm already a black belt, and so no amateur who's like a blue belt is gonna want to fight me. And so I would have been forced to go the pro route. And if I was going to go the pro route and do that, then it's one of those things where I'm like, well, I would want to do striking for like a minimum of like 2 years, you know, before I go the pro route, because I'm fighting somebody who's a professional, right? I'm not fighting some amateur. And so it's kind of a challenge because it's like, well, do I want to commit to that? I also, with anything, like we were talking about this before we started, I think like winning is a habit. And so if you're going to start winning in something, you should get used to doing it. And like I have no experience with actual fighting outside of sparring and training. And so I would want some fights that were kind of easy for me to tune up, feel what it feels like to walk out to the cage, feel the weight cut, because that's honestly one of the biggest things is me having to do a water weight cut.
That's interesting.
And so I'm like, I don't want to like try all this and have to fight somebody who's going to the UFC like really early on, that's had like 15 fights already, that's already got their weight cut down, that knows exactly what they feel like on fight day. All these are unknown variables to me. And so I'm like, I want to do something that's relatively easy at first and then go from there. Like, I got to fight somebody that on my worst day I could demolish in the first round. And so I was kind of just looking to find some scrub, honestly, to beat up, but nobody wanted to do it. And so it kind of took a back burner. I don't know. We'll see. I'll try again. I got some stuff coming up with jiu-jitsu, and my name is getting out there a little bit more, and so it's kind of like I kind of want to focus on that. But if the right opportunity comes along and I can, then, you know, I'll take it, and I'll go to Utah or whatever it is. Like, I had one person offer me something, but it was like in Minnesota. I'm like, dude, I am not that serious about this. I am not about to fly to Minnesota to fight in someone's backyard. You know, so
backyard brawl.
Yeah, you know, we'll see.
I told you, whenever that happens, man, I'm buying a front row ticket, dude. I'll be your biggest supporter.
I appreciate
of course, man. I got you. All right, so you guys say whenever you do the fight, I will be there for sure, man. But congrats to the gym. That's huge. On the link on the video, we're going to show obviously location. Obviously, come stop by if you want to do jiu-jitsu. Come stop by, learn from I think one of the best in the valley for that, which is good. But I think your gym is a different vibe, different look, different feel. I think it's something different, which is great. So I'm just proud of you, man. I really am.
I appreciate it, and likewise, man. It's been incredible watching you grow. In your career over the last 10 years, and I know that you're just going to keep killing it. So I appreciate you having me, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.